The first legislative session under Governor Eric Greitens is drawing to what some consider a controversial close.
After many lawmakers ran campaigns last year promising ethics reform, legislators say little has actually been accomplished. In fact, some state lawmakers were accused of unethical practices.
In an ABC 17 News special report, ABC 17's Sarah Massler-Donar takes a closer look at what's really going on at the Capitol and found out why legal campaign donations sometimes hide darker agendas.
Missouri's campaign finance laws are some of the most permissive in the country, and according to political experts and local lawmakers, they're easy to take advantage of. It begins with the First Amendment, free speech promised to all Americans, and according to the United States Supreme Court, political speech is also protected.
And if you want to give money to a candidate or a party, then that is a type of speech.
Terry Smith, a political science professor at Columbia College, says that speech plays into a practiced political loophole, dark money.
And it's essentially money where there is, that is given by individuals or companies or groups to candidates or political parties that you can't really trace it well.
So under Missouri law, if someone wanted to donate to a candidate or a campaign, that candidate or campaign must disclose the name of the donor to the public. But under the same law, if that same donor gave the same amount of money to a 501c3, 4, or 5 organization, a nonprofit working on behalf of the candidate, that donor remains anonymous to the public.
You have to follow the money to understand what policies are being pushed and why they're being pushed. And when you cannot see the donors, you can't understand why certain policies are moving inside the Capitol.
State Representative Kip Kendrick is one of several lawmakers that filed ethics legislation this session. His all-encompassing bill includes banning lobbyist gifts and extending the powers of the Missouri Ethics Commission.
We basically took the campaign promises of Governor Greitens and turned that into legislation.
I will be loyal to your needs and priorities, not to those who posture or pay for influence.
Since taking office, the governor has signed 2 executive orders relating to ethics. One bans lobbyist gifts in the executive branch. The other shuts the revolving door, banning any former staffer from lobbying the administration. And while I was not able to talk to the governor, I went to his office and spoke to his press secretary, Parker Bryden, who told me, quote, the governor supports and will continue to push for term limits for all statewide office holders, a complete ban on lobbyist gifts, and an end to the revolving door between lawmakers and lobbying. Even with the governor's promise to remain committed to that ethics plan, Kendrick's bill detailing those promises stalled this session, never even making it on the House calendar. Similarly, Senator Caleb Rowden's lobbyist gift ban bill hasn't been touched since January.
I don't believe that everyone who takes a gift is corrupt, but I also think that in a world where the perception of us being able to take an unlimited amount of gifts, I think there's a perception problem there that we absolutely need to address.
But there's been other progress. In November, 70% of Missouri voters passed Amendment 2, which limits campaign contributions. Although the Western District Court of Appeals recently overturned much of Amendment 2, specific campaign contribution limits within Amendment 2 remain. Smith says he's not surprised that most ethics legislation went by the wayside this session.
Ethics reform is not a bread and butter issue. The bread and butter issues are what Missourians are most interested in: jobs, transportation, schools.
But Kendrick tells me his constituents on both sides of the aisle are calling for reform, so he plans to file his bill again and include dark money and transparency provisions. He says unintended consequences of the new contribution limits in Amendment 2 could mean a whole new era of dark money in politics.
When you put those limits in, it becomes more difficult. Then you're just going to see these outside groups come in and spend money, dark money in this state at an unprecedented rate.
The fight over dark money contributions reached its peak this session after a newly formed nonprofit called A New Missouri, one set up to push Governor Greitens' conservative agenda, ran ads attacking Republican Senator Rob Schaaf, ones that included his personal phone number. The governor and his staff deny involvement with the organization. Some lawmakers say the nonprofit is acting on its own, but others tell me that can't be true.
I just don't buy it that the governor doesn't know what's happening at the nonprofit that was set up to push his message.
The recent attempts to pass dark money reform this session failed. Several Senate Republicans cited free speech violations and privacy concerns during debate.
What happens is a lot of times when you expose people, expose private citizens, you open them up to certain instances of retaliation from folks that disagree with them. So I think that's an unintended consequence. And when people understand that their personal data is going to show up on a list somewhere, they're less likely to be involved in that endeavor.
Rowden says when it comes to passing dark money legislation, the devil's in the details.
Finding the line there is tough, hitting the ones that you want to hit without hitting the ones that you don't want to hit. I think it's something that probably has a pretty broad range of support.
Lawmakers are saying their fight for reform will continue into the 2018 session. Both Rowden and Kendrick tell me they will file their bills again.
Great work there, Sarah. The 2017 legislative session officially ends on Friday. I will be live at the state capitol for the paper toss and a review of this session.